A massive manhunt underway for the man who killed 4 people at a Tennessee Waffle House. Schools now locking out all visitors until further notice.
Mike Pompeo is a highly qualified individual. At some point, Democrats have to decide whether they love this country more than they hate this president.
President Trump preparing to welcome the French president, Emmanuel Macron, to the White House today.
We have a very special relationship because both of us are probably the maverick of the systems.
There was no official intelligence that was used to start this investigation.
He just said that the most destructive counterintelligence spying operation in modern U.S. history was conducted with zero evidence. Zero.
He could be the #1 pick in this week's NFL draft. Quarterback Sam Darnold stopping by Fox and Friends with a special guest, his mom.
He's been beyond anything a mother could ever ask for.
I got a little surprise for my mom, a little necklace.
So what you just saw was Sam Darnold, the USC, soon to be a Cleveland Brown or a New York Giant, more than likely. K Jewelers was one of his sponsors, and he surprised his mom on our show with a Mother's Day present from K Jewelers. And
she was so proud of him. She has 2 athletic kids, and she's a PE teacher at middle school. They were just such a neat family.
Dad was an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Every draft begins with K. You know, her father was the Marlboro Man. Remember him from the TV commercials back in the day?
How did you figure that out?
I read Wikipedia about the family. The sister is a volleyball player at the University of Rhode Island. The dad was the Marlboro Man, and he is going to make history when the draft is seen on Fox coming up later this week.
So exciting.
All right. I think somewhere I'm related to the Charmin guy. He used to squeeze the Charmin. I'll find out.
Mr. Whipple?
Yeah, I think so.
Seriously?
And if you can look that up.
Are you serious?
No. I'm just kidding. Meanwhile, President Trump preparing to welcome French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House today.
And the Iranian deal expected to come up during the talk.
Griff Jenkins joins us live from Washington with more on what we can expect. Hello, Griff. We all say his name differently, right? Brian, good job. Macron.
Macron.
He got it right, Macron. And look, this is the first state dinner of this administration. It's a big deal, and there's a lot on the plate to discuss, from North Korean developments to the future of the Iran nuclear deal. President Macron weighed in with our own Chris Wallace about that.
For nuclear, what do you have as a better option? I don't see it. I don't have any plan B for nuclear against Iran. So that's a question we will discuss. But that's why I just want to say on nuclear, let's preserve this framework because it's better than a sort of North Korean type of situation.
Meanwhile, as Macron urged President Trump to stay in the deal, Iran's foreign minister Mohammad Zarif was warning the U.S. from exiting it.
Withdrawing from it would be seen by the international community as an indication that the United States is not a reliable partner. Iran has many options, and those options are not pleasant.
Now, President Trump has been very critical of the Iran deal signed by President Obama, but gave a temporary extension to it in January. Now, a May 12th deadline looms to remain, as German Chancellor Angela Merkel will visit Washington at the end of the week to encourage the president to stay in the deal. As for Macron's visit, the president and first lady will host the Macrons for a private dinner tonight at Mount Vernon, then the official state dinner at the White House tomorrow. No word at what's on the menu. I did a little digging and found out Macron's favorite food appears to be cordon bleu. We'll see what we get.
Of course. And now, Griff, I have been hearing that apparently no Democrats and no members of the media have been invited to the official first state dinner, which is something new. Usually Democrats and some members of the press do get invited, but not this time, right?
That's right. Breaking with tradition, only about 150 guests, no Democrats, no journalists that will be there. We do know Speaker Ryan will be there, as well as some other dignitaries.
If there is an injury or an illness, Griff, I'm sure you're going to get the call, okay? I'm sure you're on the wait list.
Thank you.
I'll be on the standby.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, Sarah Sanders was with us just about 30 minutes ago. She said she doesn't want to reveal what might happen in the next day or two regarding France and the Iranian deal, but she said this about that.
We certainly expect this to be a topic that comes up both at this visit over the next couple of days, as well as the visit with Chancellor Merkel at the end of this week. I'm not going to get ahead of anything that the president may or may not commit to and what he'd want to see in that, but the president's been very clear about the dislike he has for this deal and how he wants to make sure that we get something better.
I just thought we saw a real relationship of respect between the two. They don't agree on everything, but I don't think people that respect each other have to agree. They don't agree on the climate change. It looks like the president wants to get out of Syria quicker than Macron thinks we should get out of Syria. Also, when it comes to the Iranian deal, he says, what if I work out something with Germany and our other allies, that we overlay this, that if with the ballistic missiles and the expiration date on the deal, what if I make this deal a little bit tougher on the Iranians? Might you stay in? So they're trying to work it out while respecting each other's different points of view.
And speaking of different points of view, when Mr. Macron was running for president, he pretty much stood for everything that was anti-Trump. And yet, fast forward to this day, and the French leader and the American leader, that's the tightest relationship each of them have.
Yeah, Chris Wallace did an interview yesterday with him in Paris, and or I guess they recorded it earlier, but they
good assignment.
It was beautiful. It was very well done, and really just showed you their relationship and how they have learned to respect each other and what negotiation really looks like. Today is Pompeo gets his confirmation vote today. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee is going to meet and they're going to vote. It looks like they are short of votes. They need all the Republicans on board, and Rand Paul is saying he is not going to vote. He's going to oppose Pompeo.
Although the president did say last week, he said, you know, Rand Paul has never let me down. So that just applies a little pressure. So it will be interesting tonight to see whether or not Rand is a thumb up or a thumb down.
I thought it was interesting. Mark Short said over the weekend, Rand Paul is supposedly a hard no, perhaps, but does he want to go down as the Republican who voted for John Kerry and against Mike Pompeo? That's something to think about. And if it gets the way, even if it doesn't get through committee, it goes to the floor, at which time there's a belief that Heidi Heitkamp will not be the only Democrat to flip. There's others feeling the pressure of their election, from John Tester to Joe Donnelly to Claire McCaskill, as well as Manchin over in West Virginia, that they will flip because they can't honestly say that they see eye to eye with the president on anything if you're not going to vote for his eminently qualified Secretary of State.
But then it hurts the country. That's just not, I don't understand it, because it hurts national security. It hurts our country. We have everything going on in North Korea and Syria. We need a Secretary of State. I know they might not like the president, but you can't penalize the rest of the country and our country's safety.
Well, we got to redo our whole system because we have so many ambassadors and positions that can't even get votes on the Senate. I mean, we don't have an ambassador to Germany. Germany's coming Friday. We've had a guy on hold, Rick Grinnell, for about 7 months now. It's a joke.
Because you've got to have 30 hours of debate, and Mitch won't do that. Don't know why. Meanwhile, I mean, you look at Mike Pompeo. Over Easter, he went and essentially negotiated with Kim Jong-un.
And he's director of the CIA.
He knows a lot of stuff. He's the New York Daily News, which hates Trump, says confirm this guy. Sarah Huckabee Sanders on, as I said, about 40 minutes ago, says this about Mr. Pompeo and what he's doing with North Korea.
At some point, Democrats have to decide whether they love this country more than they hate this president. And they have to decide that they want to put the safety and the security and the diplomacy of our country ahead of their own political games. And we're very hopeful that they will. Mike Pompeo is a highly qualified individual. He's been one of the leading people when it comes to the negotiations and the conversations with North Korea. And to stop that would be incredibly dangerous and damaging for our country and for the world.
Well, and if you wonder why Scott Pruitt is definitely going to have a job, and it's the Attorney General will stick it out, it's because it's impossible to confirm anybody in today's day and age. And with this Congress in particular, it's too. Then think about what Gina Haspel is going to go through as CIA director, and other people who have to get confirmed. It's just going to take forever or not going to happen.
So if it doesn't move out of the committee with an affirmative vote, then it would move to the larger Senate. Only once before in history, in 1945, when FDR nominated a guy to be Secretary of Commerce, has it gone to the larger body. We'll keep you posted on that. But in the meantime, people are at Twitter in the control room because, Jillian, we've got a baby.
It's a boy.
Yay!
Not mine, but breaking moments ago, this is a live look in London where the Duchess of Cambridge has officially delivered a baby boy. Kate Middleton welcoming the baby into the world at 6 a.m. this morning Eastern time, weighing in at 8 pounds, 7 ounces. Kate and the baby boy are reportedly doing very well. No name has been announced just yet. When it is, we'll let you know. This baby will be the 5th in line to the throne, following behind brother Prince George and sister Princess Charlotte. Folks have been camping outside the hospital for weeks to get a first glimpse at the new little royal. Congrats. All right, turning now to some extreme weather. Tornadoes carving a path of destruction through the South, injuring 5 people. 2 twisters touching down in Baldwin County, Alabama, including this RV park where first responders rescued 3 people inside overturned mobile homes, one of them suffering significant injuries. The severe storms also tearing through parts of Florida, causing this swirling waterspout at Fort Walton Beach. Scary stuff. Barbara Bush's gravesite at her husband's presidential library at Texas A&M University will be opening to the public this morning. The couple's daughter, Robin, is also buried there. She was 3 when she died of leukemia. The Bush family now sharing these touching photos from the private burial ceremony. Just look at these. The former First Families and First Lady Melania Trump, all by the side of former President George H.W. Bush. Let's look at your headlines.
Oh, hold on. Okay, I'm looking at this photo.
Yep. There's back row on the right. You got Melania.
The Obamas,
the Obamas,
the Clintons, the Bushes.
And then George
Mr.
Herbert
Bush
Walker
without
Bush.
His wife
I know.
It's amazing. Hillary said so many nasty things about George W., and Bill is so close to George W., but it's Bill that's boxed out, playing the second row, right?
You know, it's all politics, and I think after the election they walk away and they're able to maybe bury the hatchet a little.
Yeah, but George W. Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, when they left politics, they left it. They don't comment
they
on
don't
things
comment
publicly.
anymore, which is the way it should be.
Much like Mitt Romney.
Right.
Speaking of, Brian.
11 minutes after the hour, Mitt Romney heading for a runoff in Utah after failing to lock down the Republican nomination for the Senate. His opponent, 3-time state representative Mike Kennedy, joins us live to tell us how he got the magic going.
Plus, you know her and you love her as DJ on Full House. Fuller House.
Both.
You look like a morning host on Fox and Friends. Nailed it.
Now, Candace Cameron Bure is sharing her secret on staying true to herself, and she's going to join us live.
Do we owe her $5 for that mention?
Where former presidential candidate Mitt Romney failed to lock down the nomination for the U.S. Senate, or at least the Republican nomination, has now forced into a June runoff on the 26th in a primary. His opponent, State Representative Mike Kennedy, quite popular obviously, is here with us, who beat Romney 51-49 among party delegates. We're also invited former Governor Mitt Romney to join us, but as of now, he declined. We hope he reverses that. Meanwhile, Romney said this on supporting President Trump. For those who think that President Trump is pushing for his opponent, he's not. He says, I will make that decision down the road as a person of political experience. If I endorse someone, I want to know what it's in it. This is whether he's going to endorse him for 2020. I want to know what's in it for Utah, how it's going to help the people with their priorities. So congratulations, State Senator Kennedy. How did you pull this off?
Thanks, Brian. I pulled it off by representing the people of Utah, and I'm a family doctor. I'm an attorney. I'm also a state representative, and it's been a pleasure to serve the people of Utah, and I think that they understood that I would represent them well in the United States Senate. And so it's been a real pleasure to work with them, and that's how we pulled it off.
So, I mean, in terms of money raised, Mitt Romney's got $1.6 million. You got $289,000. What's changed since you pulled off that win?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So we spent about $30,000, and they spent about $500,000 for this win. So it's going to be the same process in the primaries. We'll just push ahead. It's a one by one process.
All right. So you seem kind of low-key about the whole thing. This is what everyone said when you pulled off the upset. This is David versus Goliath. But Romney coming back and says, they're wrong to say that. I'm not Goliath. I'm your neighbor. Is Mitt Romney your neighbor?
Sure, he's my neighbor, and he's been here for a while. I've been here for much longer. I have not read the Cliff Notes version of the Book of Utah. I've actually read the full Book of Utah. It's been a pleasure to live amongst these people, and I've also served them as a doctor and a state legislator, and I know the state really well, and it's been a a great privilege for me to serve the people of Utah, and I think they felt that, and that's why they voted for me.
Do you have a problem with Mitt Romney coming back after being governor of Massachusetts and coming back here to Utah, after he lost the presidency?
We're a state that welcomes all people, and it's actually great that he's here, and we're happy to welcome many others. And I'm glad he's here, but I feel like I represent the people of Utah better.
Why?
Because I've lived here for 20 years, served the people. I've been all around the state, and I've not had to sort of learn about the state quickly. I've actually raised my family here and built my small business here.
So you have Evan McMullin got over 20% of the vote in the last election, 2016. And it looks like Donald Trump got about 45% to Hillary Clinton's 20-something%. Where do you stand on what kind of job in your mind has Donald Trump done?
President Trump's done a great job, not only for the nation, but also for the state of Utah. The Trump tax cuts I fully endorse and I'm very supportive of. And in addition, the return of the lands to the local communities that should own those lands and run those lands in the forms of the Bears Ears Monument. Those have been outstanding steps for the state of Utah, and I'm really impressed with the president's performance thus far.
Do you think there was the right thing to do for Mitt Romney to come out against President Trump when he was candidate Trump?
Oh, I can't presuppose to speak for Governor Romney. It's one of those things that I'll leave that to him and you to decide, but I'm grateful for President Trump's attention to the state. We deserve that, and it's been great to have it.
This is going to be the kindest, gentlest, most affable campaign in the country. So you and Mitt Romney have nothing against each other. You just want to see the best person win.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, that's the right thing, not only for the state of Utah, but for the country. We have a lot of people that want to fight in Washington, D.C., and I want to get things done. I want to clean up the place, and it's a target-rich environment, Brian. There's a lot of things for us to do. Let's work together to get the right things done.
Wow, that is so mature, it's scary. State Senator Mike Kennedy, thanks. Congratulations on your win.
Thanks, Brian. It's good to talk to you.
All right, same here. 10 minutes before the bottom of the hour. She blamed everything from James Comey to Vladimir Putin to Netflix. Now Hillary Clinton has a brand new excuse for losing the election. You're not going to believe it. Plus, you know her and love her as DJ on Fuller House. Candace Cameron Bure is sharing her secret on staying true to herself. She's here with a sneak peek of her brand new book. That story's next. There she is, around the bend. Matter of time, she'll be at the couch. Soon she'll great name Preet Ainsley, and then Ainsley will lean over.
For you on this Monday morning. First up, the House Speaker's former driver now looking to take his office. Wisconsin Republican Brian Steele making a bid to replace Paul Ryan in the House of Representatives. Ryan, who, as you know, is retiring after this year, has not yet endorsed anybody to take his seat. Primary, August 14th. And former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg cryptically leaving the door open for a 2020 White House run.
Moment, I'm not running for president. I'm trying to do as good a job as I can.
Bloomberg has donated more than $4 million to the Paris Climate Accord to cover some of the United States' lapsed commitment payments after President Trump dropped us out. And that's some of the news, but Brian?
Yep. You might recognize our next guest from the major Netflix hit show Fuller House, where she plays a mother of a son who has great style.
How do I look? You look like a morning host on Fox and Friends. Nailed it.
The brown hair, I guess he would be you, Brian.
Maybe.
In real life, actress and author Candace Cameron Bure says it's okay to go off script, sharing how to stay true to yourself in her new book. It's called Kind is the New Classy, The Power of Living Graciously, which is out tomorrow.
And Candace Cameron Bure is here with a sneak peek. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I love just the title alone. We need more of this.
We do. We need to put the spotlight back on kindness.
What happened?
What do you mean, what happened?
There are not many kind people out there sometimes.
It feels like it, because I feel like when we turn on the news and flip on our computers and the TV screen, we see all the tragedy and the heartbreak that's going on in the world. It's so divisive politically, and that's really why I wrote the book, because I wanted to put that spotlight back on kindness and say we can start with the small things, and let's let's change the culture by changing ourselves 1% at a time, and let it have a ripple effect into your community.
So you have to shut down the outside to be better to people on the inside, right?
Well, shut down the outside, I don't know about that. I think it starts with you, and you have a choice to be positive, to be kind, to be respectful, no matter what people you encounter in your day, whether they agree or not.
Did something happen in your life where you said, I got to write a book about this? Is it based on what you've learned along the way, and what's your advice?
Of course. You know, a lot of my time on The View was an inspiration for this book.
Taught you that.
That's a nice way to put it.
Well, you know, I really did enjoy being on the show, but it was tough at times. It's tough to be the only voice at a table that has one specific viewpoint, and so I had to. I always wanted to be respectful and kind at the end of the day, and I think that's what I heard from people the most, was like, how do you stay calm when you feel like people are attacking you? And so I thought, let me write down the tools that helped.
Well, there are, you know, in everybody's life, there's somebody who is unkind, and you still have to deal with them.
Right.
So how do you do? It could be a neighbor, it could be somebody you always see driving down the street. How do you do that? Give us some tips on how to be kind, which is the new classy.
It sounds so simple, but especially when you're in a situation that is immediate, you got to just take a breath first before you speak. So it's not reactive, emotional reaction. And I always like to go into meetings or conversations with people that I know may have an opposing point of view and have compassion towards them. I like to think about, well, where did they grow up?
From their perspective.
From their perspective. Where did they grow up? What life events happened to them that they might have this viewpoint for a reason that will soften my heart to understand where they're at.
Lastly, Candace, do you feel as though people take advantage of you at points because you are kind? Is kindness, in some cases, weakness? Do you have to show a mix?
Kindness is not weakness, only if you allow it to be weakness. So there was nothing weak about me at the table when I sat at The View, but I was always kind. You can be strong and kind. You can be kind and ambitious. You can be kind and respectful. All those things. It's just a balance.
You don't have to be a doormat.
No,
you can say anything. It's all on how you say it.
Yeah.
The brand new book is called Kind is the New Classy. Check it out. Hits bookstands tomorrow.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And thanks for mentioning Fox and Friends on Fuller House.
Of course.
Excellent. All right.
Well, small businesses are more optimistic than ever under this president. What is the secret? Linda McMahon is Trump's small business chief, and she is here with the answer.
And Candace Owens facing some backlash for slamming Black Lives Matter, but she got some star power behind her thanks to Kanye West.
Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Buckingham Palace, proudly announce the birth of a newly born Crown Prince on this St. George's Day, 2018. God save the Queen.
The town crier is back.
Yes. It's your shot of the morning. The town crier officially announcing the Duchess of Cambridge has delivered a baby boy, and the trumpet started blowing. Here's a live look at St. Mary's Hospital in London, where people give birth, where the royal family welcomed their baby boy into the world at 6 this morning Eastern Time. Weight, 8 pounds, 7 ounces, as predicted.
A big baby. Kate and the baby boy are doing very well. No name has yet been announced.
The baby will be the 5th in line to the throne, following behind her brother, Prince George, and her sister, Princess Charlotte.
Gotta be a lot of resignations for this kid to see the throne.
Who doesn't love that? Everyone. The reason we're also fascinated with the royal family, it's family. Plus, they live in castles.
Right.
They do live in castles.
Absolutely. Like all of us.
Sure. Meanwhile, regarding that town crier, I do believe doesn't work at Buckingham Palace. I bet that's another one of those guys who just got
renegade
dressed up.
crier?
Yep. I think he just was grabbing some headlines, and you know what? It worked. He was our shot of the morning.
By the way, to see the town criers like this, remember the early morning shows before the teleprompter? They used to all hold scripts in front of them like this?
No.
Much like the town crier? No?
You're
On kinescopes?
dating yourself.
Jack Parr? No?
So you're saying now our script is held by whom?
No, I'm just, well, right now it's in the prompter.
All
That's
right.
exactly what to say.
So should we talk some news, some
Yes.
other news? All right, Candace Owens, she's the communications director for Turning Point USA. She's been on our show a lot. She was out at UCLA, right? liberal California, and she was heckled. She was talking about, other issues, I think finance, and she was heckled by someone in the crowd, a few people in the crowd, Black Lives Matter protesters.
Exactly.
And this was her response to them.
Victim mentality is not cool. I don't know why people like being oppressed. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I love oppression. We're oppressed. 400 years of slavery, Jim Crow, which, by the way, none of you guys lived through. Your grandparents did, and it's embarrassing that you utilize their history. You're not living through anything right now. You're overly privileged Americans.
Well, her comments at UCLA went viral, and out of nowhere, who saw this coming? Kanye West tweeted this out. I love the way Candace Owens thinks. Then suddenly, he has been taking heat from the political left about that. We had Candace Owens on over the weekend, and she had this observation about what's going on regarding, first, her comments about Black Lives Matter, and then Kanye West jumping on the bandwagon.
There is no value in being a victim. There is no value in being oppressed. There is only value in looking forward toward the future. And that is what I preach and what I practice every single day and what I'm trying to wake up the Black community to understand. For too long, we have been used by pawns, and Black Lives Matter is an example of that. They are pawns to the Democratic Party that go out and ruin their lives for something that they don't even understand and which is fundamentally false.
She also tweeted this out. I'm freaking out at Kanye West. Please take a meeting with me. I tell every single person that everything I have been inspired to do was written in your music.
Wow. Candace said that about Kanye?
And do you remember when Kanye West, he was also one of the people that get up after Katrina, and he said George Bush doesn't like black people, or remember that got a lot of controversy. Then he did this horrible thing and visited the President of the United States, the President-elect of the United States at Trump Tower. He got backlash from that. He pretty much does his own thing. Dr. Jordan Peterson, who's written one of the most successful books in the world today, talked about that after Steve played the soundbite for her of Candace speaking out against that heckler.
Candace is commenting about the danger of adopting a victimization oppressor narrative, and it's a narrative that the hard left has really been pushing. Everyone successful is an oppressor, and everyone else is a moral victim. To look at the world through a group identity lens puts us back in a tribal situation and will produce conflict. And so Candace is objecting to that, and rightly so. It's an unbelievably pernicious ideology, and the universities are to blame for distributing it in large part.
Oh, I agree with him. You know, the worst is when you're around someone who does have that victim mentality, who always thinks that, why is it fair that someone else got something that I didn't get? And they're not willing to work hard to achieve their dreams and to get where they want to go. Those are the worst people to be around.
And he's a professor, and he's saying the problem, in large part, is starting at the universities. We asked you what you thought. We got an email from Tom. He writes, brave woman going against the crowd, friends, family, and the mainstream media takes guts.
Edward writes again, how refreshing to hear a young, brilliant American woman talk about race and facts of the matter.
Another Twitter user writes this, people like Candace give me hope for the future of this country, no matter the race, sex, or orientation of our citizens.
All right, keep the comments coming. We read them all day. In the meantime, it's time for some news, 22 minutes before the top of the hour. Jillian?
That's right. Good Monday morning to you guys, to you at home as well. Let's get you caught up on some of the other stories that we're following. They put their lives on the line to save others on 9/11. Now those heroic first responders are being targeted by scammers. They're posing as employees of the September 11 Victim Compensation Fund, which benefits people with health issues caused by the attack. Authorities say they're calling up survivors, requesting personal information to help with claims. Congress is asking the FTC to investigate the scam. Failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton adding one more excuse to her growing list of what happened, this time the media.
The mainstream political coverage was influenced by the right-wing media ecosystem. Relentlessly negative news has had a leveling effect that opens the doors to charlatans.
While speaking at an event in New York, Clinton added that the political races since she lost have been more fairly covered. Dr. Oz coming to the aid of a group of high schoolers after their bus bursts into flames. He was driving past the scene on the New Jersey Turnpike and stopped to make sure everyone was okay. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. This is not Dr. Oz's first roadside rescue. Oz was named an honorary firefighter after helping victims of a crash on the same highway in 2015. The doctor will join us live on Fox and Friends tomorrow. I love this one. A dog is being hailed a hero for keeping a lost 3-year-old girl safe. Max, who is partially blind and deaf, staying with the toddler for more than 15 hours after she wandered away from her home in Australia. Officers later naming Max an honorary police dog. The little girl is now back home and safe with her family. Luckily, she only suffered minor scratches.
And that's why they call him man's best friend.
Right?
Rather than
Love it.
In the movie, of course, the dog would go back to the farmhouse and find help and bring him home. But that's a movie, not real life.
Except for Old Yellow, who didn't he get bit by a crazy wolf?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then they had to shoot him.
Thanks for bringing it down.
Now you don't need to see the movie.
Right. Okay, now that we're all depressed, hey JD, who you got with you?
Who do I have here? What are your names? Where are you from?
Dee Tsoupas from Goffstown, New Hampshire.
Bill Tsoupas, Goffstown, New Hampshire.
Hey, thanks for coming to Fox and Friends. All right, and where are you from? What are your names?
Joe Wilson from Caldwell, New Jersey.
Dana Wilson, Caldwell.
Oh, so you know each other.
Yeah. For about
What are you guys doing in New York today?
40 years.
40 years. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You doing anything fun today?
Yes, we're going to Metropolitan.
Nice.
Yep, we're going to go.
Stadium tomorrow.
Yankee Stadium.
Oh, we have to.
Oh,
We're both
Love.
fans.
you're both fans.
Yankee.
What about you guys today?
We're going to do some sightseeing.
Nice.
Yeah.
But the highlight has been?
Fox News.
Oh, amazing! Let's take a look at the weather, because you know what? Today is a beautiful day for sightseeing here in New York City. 51 here in New York. It's going to be 65 today. You guys are so lucky. 45 in Chicago, 43 in Minneapolis. We do have a system that's moving up the southeast in towards the mid-Atlantic, coming up towards the northeast on Tuesday and Wednesday. But for now, a spectacular forecast in New York City. All right, Wave, do you want to say hi to anybody at home real quick?
How you doing, Joe? Paige, we love you. Hi, Mary and Jack.
Hi, Mary Jack.
Nicely done. Wave inside to Ainsley, Steve, and Brian.
What's up, guys?
Look at Brian waved.
Brian waved.
Right.
They're extra special.
All right. So whoever those people, I'm sure they're happy.
Seem to be.
Yes. 19 minutes before the top of the hour. Small businesses are more optimistic than ever under President Trump. What is the secret? Linda McMahon, tomorrow is Trump's small business chief. She's here with the answer next.
And she just waved. Plus
a special tribute from George H.W. Bush to his late wife Barbara at her funeral. A pair of socks with books on them honoring her love of reading. The two men who made those socks share the story behind the touching moment just ahead.
Walking in Memphis, but do I really feel the way I feel? Saw the ghost of Elvis.
all businesses very optimistic, riding high after President Trump signed historic tax cuts into law. In fact, the number of business owners naming taxes as the #1 problem plummeting to levels not seen since the 1980s. Here with more is the administrator of the Small Business Administration, Linda McMahon, whose organization is shining a light on entrepreneurs next week in a 3-day conference. We'll talk about that in a moment. Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm terrific, thank you.
So explain the optimism. Is it all because of the tax cut?
Well, a lot of it's a tax cut. It's regulatory rollback as well. You know, I'm traveling all over the country. I'm visiting small businesses. I'm having business roundtables. Prior to tax cuts getting passed, the optimism was we're going to get them. We're going to get them.
Right.
Now they're there. Now they're investing in their companies. They're giving bonuses. They're increasing wages. They're investing in equipment with the write-off now under the tax cuts.
Wait, you're making it sound like a good thing. Before it passed, I heard the Democrats say this is only going to help really rich people and big corporations.
Well, clearly that's not the case. Small businesses around the country are the ones who are really benefiting from this, and they're starting more businesses. They're growing their businesses. And I've had so many of them tell me, look, we sent a letter out with bonus checks saying this was because of the president's policies.
And look at the big wall over there, the different companies, small and large, that have given bonuses to benefit their employees, and they love it. It's not crumbs.
No, definitely not crumbs. And so what is continuing is this optimism, is businesses that are growing throughout the country, starting, getting access to capital, and that's what SBA does. We guarantee loans to help people who couldn't get loans elsewhere.
Okay. So tell us about this virtual conference you got going, I think next week, right?
It's the first time we've done this. It'll be during National Small Business Week, which starts on Sunday, the 29th, and goes through May 5th. So for the first time, you can come on, log into the virtual conference. You can get all kinds of webinars during that 3-day period, which will talk about how to do your business plans and how to move forward, how to manage cash, and all of the things that are very, very important to small businesses. Be terrific.
Well, look, small business in the United States, that's the engine where, what is it, 2/3 of people in the United States work for a small business?
About half.
Half.
A little over half either work for or own a small business, and small businesses create 2 out of 3 net new jobs in the private sector in this country.
Interesting.
It's amazing.
Stuff. If people would like more information,
SBA.gov.
Look at that. All right, Linda McMahon, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, 12 minutes before the top of the hour, a touching tribute from President George Herbert Walker Bush to Barbara at her funeral. Look there. The pair of socks he was wearing with books honoring her love of literacy. The 2 men who made those socks shared the story behind that special moment. They are coming up next. Good morning, guys. First, let's check in with Bill Hemmer for a preview of what happens in 11 minutes.
Steve. Real tribute to life on Saturday. Good morning to you and welcome, everybody. Breaking overnight, the manhunt for the Waffle House killer continues today. Will Democrats block the president's pick at a critical time on matters of North Korea? Watch that story today also. What Joe Biden says about Republicans and minorities. Wait for that one. And it's a royal boy in blue. Come join Sandra and me. We'll see you in 10 minutes on a Monday morning in America's Newsroom.
I knew ever I said I want to sell socks.
Because he had long worn colorful and crazy socks. So we said, let's go test the idea. He had the name and the idea, let's sell them online.
What's the name?
John's Crazy Socks.
John's Crazy Socks.
Back in November, we introduced you to John. He is 22 years old. He's an entrepreneur with Down syndrome. His father, Mark, and their crazy socks.
Yep, well, this weekend they made special socks for former President George H.W. Bush to honor his late wife, Barbara, and her commitment to literacy.
The former president wearing these socks, as you can see right there, embellished with the books at the former First Lady's funeral on Saturday. And here with the story behind this very special moment, John Cronin, the co-founder of John's Crazy Socks, and his father, Mark, the co-founder and president of John's Crazy Socks. So, Mark, when did you find out that the president was going to be wearing this pair of socks?
Well, he'd been wearing John's socks before, and they called us last week, his office called, to get some socks that they could wear to honor Mrs. Bush's legacy. So we sent a large box of socks for President Bush and the family to wear.
That's great.
That is great. Now, John, how does it make you feel to know that the President of the United States was wearing the socks that you designed?
I feel good about that, and one thing I point out, I felt sad for President Bush, and I feel good. I feel happy for President Bush. The socks.
Yeah, I understand, because he said his wife passed away after all these years. At the same time, which he cared about was literacy, right? She wanted people to read, and that's what your socks represented.
And what's our mission?
I just spreading happiness.
Spreading happiness, and that's what you were doing for President Bush with those socks.
And right there, you've got a pair of socks. Hold those up so the folks can see. Those were worn by another president, weren't they?
Well, these were worn by President Bush, George W. H.W. on World Down Syndrome Day. These are your socks, right?
Right.
Who designed these socks?
I did.
They're
He does not like to brag, I know that.
Superhero, Down syndrome superhero socks. And like much of what we do, these raise money for Down syndrome charity.
How can we buy some socks and help raise money?
Well, where do people go to find socks?
At JohnCrazySocks.com.
John, and what are they going to find there?
sock, and more sock.
Yeah, right.
5% of everything we earn goes to the Special Olympics.
Right.
Plus, we have a whole series of charity and awareness.
Right.
socks.
JohnsCrazySocks.com.
And when people buy the socks that the former president wore at the funeral, $2 goes to the Barbara Bush Foundation.
That's right. $2. They're now our library for literacy socks, and $2 gets donated to the Barbara Bush Literacy Fund.
Why socks? How did you get into this?
Why socks?
Why sock? I think good idea. Do something fun. And I like that sock all feel colorful.
And you wore crazy socks your whole life, right?
Right. Makes perfect
It was
sense.
his idea. Who came up with the name?
I did. I did. I came up with a name. It was just my idea.
All right. Very good. John and Mark Cronin from John's Crazy Socks. We thank you very much
Congratulations.
for joining us live.
What a great story. Beautiful.
Well, thank you.
So much.
Great to see you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
More Fox and Friends, moments away.
But everybody